Preparedness is the single most important principle preppers should follow. Taking into account the teachings of Marcus Aurelius, we need to expect the worst to happen and be ready for it. I mean, with how the world is right now, it's very likely that something apocalyptic or disastrous could take place below our noses. I'm praying that nothing bad is going to happen, but if it will, then I hope you got your essentials secured and hidden. What's up, fellow preppers? I'm Scott from the Ant Prepper, and in this episode, I will be listing some of the most essential supplies that you need to stockpile, secure, and hide from other people during an SHTF. Before I begin, I humbly ask each of you to hit the like and subscribe buttons. Those little clicks will help me create more videos helpful to preppers and those who simply want to survive this crazy world. Now, let's get started. Ammo. What's the use of your guns if their mags are empty? The reason we want to stockpile is to ensure that we can sustain the use of our firearms if the supply chains suddenly collapse or when acquiring resources becomes difficult. Guns and ammo are among the first things to disappear when SHTF kicks in. People's instincts are always geared towards self-preservation, so tools and accessories for protection become everyone's priority. Of course, preppers worth their salt already know this thing. I mean, it's practically common sense. But hey, if you don't have enough ammo for your firearms, you start buying now. In fact, you might notice that there's an increase in ammo sales and demands this 2024, and it somehow reflects that people are already feeling the instability of the world we are in. And the general rule is that you should have at least 1,000 rounds of ammo per firearm you have. That means that you have 3 firearms of different chamberings, and then you stockpile at least 1,000 rounds of those said cartridges. But keep in mind, that is just a minimum, as disasters and societal collapse could prolong for uncertain periods. Non-power tools. There's almost 100% likelihood that electricity and power sources could disappear during an SHTF and the days following it. That means we are basically off the grid and we have to go back to the old ways of doing things manually. Right now, you need to make sure that you have a number of different hand tools that you can use for a variety of tasks. Keep them secured, and don't let others, especially those who don't belong to your community, know that you have them. So, what do you need to collect and store? For the basics, it's essential to secure hammers, saws, screwdrivers, wrenches, pliers, and even those multi-tools like Swiss Army knives. You would need these items for construction, repairs, and securing items. You'll eventually have to grow your own food, so seeds, trowels, watering cans, gardening shovels, and pruning shears could become vital. An organized toolbox or shelving storage could keep these items secure and properly maintained. Fuel. Fuel is a vital resource for various needs during an SHTF scenario, including cooking, heating, transportation, and powering essential equipment. There are also different types of fuel that you should consider storing in anticipation of that societal collapse. For example, gasoline should be stored in approved containers made of metal or specialized plastic. It has a shelf life of about 6 months to 1 year, so it's crucial to rotate and replenish your supply regularly and consider using fuel stabilizers to extend its longevity. Meanwhile, tanks should be stored in a cool, well-ventilated area, upright, away from ignition sources, and regularly checked for leaks or damage. If you typically use kerosene, make sure that you store it in approved containers, tightly sealed, and away from open flames or children. You can actually gather wood anytime, so there's no real need to store them in advance. But if you think that it's essential, make sure that they are seasoned and stored in a dry, covered area to protect them from moisture and pests. For those with space and budget, bulk storage solutions such as underground or above-ground storage tanks are worth considering. It's also beneficial to have a variety of portable containers in different sizes for transporting and storing fuel as needed. Hygiene products. Basically, this entry is for our lady preppers out there. Whether you like it or not, any SHTF won't stop you from being a woman. Your body has extra needs every month, and you need to address them. Otherwise, you'll get dirty, unhygienic, and prone to infections and diseases. Of course, men require hygiene too, but not as much as women do. When a SHTF situation kicks in, you have to make sure that you have enough menstrual pads, both disposable and reusable, as well as tampons, menstrual cups, panty liners, wet wipes, disposable bags, and even antifungal cream, or those we call suppositories. These things are extremely essential for women to the point that you can trade them in for other essentials. I don't really advise women to stockpile pain relievers for their red days, but hey, if you have a bad case of cramps, You might want to get supplies of these medications too. First aid and medications. Depending on the scale of the scenario or emergency, there's a good chance that essential services like hospitals, clinics, and pharmacies will shut down. Once this happens, you no longer have the choice but to treat your injuries and illnesses by yourself. Of course, this puts us in this situation where I have to compel you to administer basic first aid. If you don't have any training yet, you can get one right now. There are paid and free resources on how to respond to emergencies like fractures, animal bites, and infections. You need to gain these skills because you can't expect that someone can handle them for you, except if there's a trained medical personnel within your community. Otherwise, the first and last emergency response should be you. There are several amenities you should include in your first aid kit, and by all means, you need to secure them so that others won't be able to grab them from you. Here are my recommendations. Gauze for dressing wounds, antibiotics ointments, bandages for covering small wounds and injuries, over-the-counter pain relievers, antiseptic wipes, antihistamines, and anti-itch creams. But to be honest, I am just scratching the surface here. If you want to build a solid med kit for SHTF, you need a lot more, which includes a variety of medications, treatment for trauma, dental amenities, and general medicine tools. In the future, I will be making a separate video for that. Food and water. When it comes to SHTF situations, you need to automatically think long-term. Now, to be fair, a lot of lists I see online don't make sense to me. They included food items that couldn't even last for 3 months. You see, if you want to survive long, you need to have long-lasting and durable supplies. Stop stocking perishable goods unless you have the space, ability, and tools to grow your own garden and raise your own livestock. My top choices for food that you should stockpile are those shelf-stable and highly indefinite options, such as rice and crackers. As long as you store them properly, they won't spoil at all. At the same time, you should also consider having honey, maple syrup, and sugar syrup, especially if you are usually using them in making your meals. They have an indefinite lifespan as well, and while their taste might change over time, that doesn't mean they have gone bad already. Canned goods are also highly recommended. Of course, spices like salt, sugar, pepper, soy sauce, vinegar, and dried herbs can endure the test of time. Aside from being essential cooking ingredients, these items can be bartered for supplies that you might have run out of already. When it comes to water, make sure that you are using food-grade storage containers for their storage. You don't want to use those plastic bottles you buy in supermarkets because they have plastics and chemicals that could be transferred to the water for a given period. Make sure that you have water filters too, as they will come handy in ensuring that you won't get sick from the water you drink. By the way, when you are storing food, always take into account your nutritional requirements. Assess if your body requires a certain level of fats, proteins, and calories. Of course, we are at the point that we can no longer get what we want, but it's really nice if you can maintain a fit body during the trying times. Thanks for watching. Times are tough, but I hope that with these videos, we will be able to plan, prepare, and act accordingly. Take care and be ready at all times. See you in my next videos.